What's up, everyone? We are back with the first edition of 2025 Vinecast. We are just a couple days out from the Richmond Ivy's home opener for the 2025 season. Could not be more excited. I'm your host, Kate McCarthy, and I'm super excited because this year we are joined by two additional co-hosts specifically covering just the Ivy. So we'll have a full team of people focused exclusively on the Ivy for the course of their season. Super excited to have Allan and Alex join me. They're both gonna sort of say a little bit about how they got into the Ivy and what they're excited for the upcoming season. Allan, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. It's so incredible because with the Ivy culminating, like with their season started back right when my wife and I were just moving back into Richmond. Incredible. So like just in that sweet spot moment. Obviously I've followed soccer for a really long time. I followed women's soccer for a very long time as well. And so for those two things to culminate into this incredible team was just like unmissable. So I was basically just at every game instantaneously, just fell in love with it. The atmosphere is incredible. So I'm so happy. And I'm really just thrilled to just see what the next season is going to be. Cause I'm so excited for Mark 2.
We love to hear it. Alex,
for sure. So I guess a similar story in that it happened around the time that we moved to Richmond. For us, it was the first time moving to Richmond, my wife and I. And it's electric. How could you not fall in love with it? So, I mean, I'm a big soccer fan, a big women's sports specifically fan. My little sister played basketball in college. I worked with the women's basketball team when I was at Indiana University. And so was super hyped to get behind and support what the city was doing and just support the Ivy. And then the moment that you walk into City Stadium to an Ivy game, it's hard not to come back the next time and the next time and the next time. So yeah, thrilled for what they can accomplish this season, and let's roll.
Yeah, they both say how excited they are, and yet both are missing the home opener. So they said that they were so excited, you can't stay away. Well, they were wrong.
That's what the internet's for. We'll watch
It's
it on
fun.
there for one game.
Yeah, you'll test out how good Sports Engine's actually going to be in terms of the stream.
That's what, yeah, I didn't mention that, but that's exactly what I'm being paid to do. That is to see like the one guy who's going to see if this thing just doesn't break in half like last time. So we'll see, right?
Because ideally nobody will be watching on streams for the rest of the season because everyone will be filling up City Stadium every week. But yeah, so the W League in general has a new streaming partner this season. It's Sports Engine. So every single game is going to be streamed, fingers crossed. As last season, there were a couple teams that did not have the capacity for streaming at all. A little unfortunate. So some of the games would have been nice to know what happened to them. I think we got like 4 total tweets.
That was really great. Yeah, I remember, I forget which game it was, but it was the one where the YouTube, it was just frozen on a thing, and then it kept doing a loop for like an hour, and I stayed for more than I should have, but I thought the loop would end. Yeah.
Yeah. So ideally we'll have quality streaming, and we have heard that there should be a commentary team at least at Ivy games at City Stadium. So if you should be getting a high quality viewing experience if you are not at City Stadium. But of course, everyone will be at City Stadium starting match week 2. We'll give you all a bye for week 1. Wanted to just let you all know what we're going to be talking about over the course of this podcast. Quick agenda. We're going to do an overview of the squad. We'll sort of touch on each position, some notable returners, some notable newcomers, mention a couple folks that we won't be seeing back at City Stadium who we miss dearly. We've got a new head coach. We'll talk about him. Very exciting. And then we'll wrap up with sort of a division schedule preview, a few key matchups, who the opponents will be in our new division. And wrap up with some final thoughts, what we hope the Ivy will accomplish this season. So we got a lot of good stuff to cover. So we'll get right into it. A squad overview. You all have been seeing the sort of player announcements rolling in over the last couple months. Started with a bang. I think some of the big names dropped back in January and February, names we were probably hoping to see, sort of trickling into the last week or so when we've got the roster filled out. So we'll start with the keepers. I'll just say the names really quickly. There are no newcomers here. We've got Lauren Hargrove, who was Ivy's starting keeper for most of the season, Cameron Miller, and Logan Marks. So those are the three keepers who will be returning to the Ivy. I think one of those names we all have a lot to say about, Lauren Hargrove. We're excited to see her back. I'll just quickly say, so Lauren's sort of story is a pretty cool one. She earned the starting, she unexpectedly fell into the starting spot her sophomore season at Tech because the starting keeper was injured very early on in the season. So she got a great season of experience starting for that program. I've said before we started recording, I don't know anything about college sports. I don't know anything about the conferences. I know that Tech is a good program. So I think Allan and Alex will definitely have more to say on the relative strength and weaknesses of the programs sort of at large and maybe specifically for these players, but that is a massive blind spot for me. So don't listen to a word I say on those topics. But she was able to get a great season of starting experience. That keeper came back for her senior season. So then when she graduated, Lauren stepped in this fall as the number one keeper at Tech and had a pretty impressive season. So really excited to see her back for season 2 with the Ivy. Thoughts on the Hargrove signing, re-signing?
Allan, go ahead.
Sure. When I was doing a lot of analysis, a lot of looking into this, and also just by what I already knew about some of these programs and some of these college athletes, because when I was at William and Mary, I was big into, our soccer team. I had a few friends who were on the team too, so that kind of got me into that sort of NCAA. And what I know about UVA specifically, if we're talking about Cameron Miller, who's probably, when I was registering like the depth chart of our goalkeepers, she's probably sitting at a number 3 spot at the moment. She's a rising senior. She's only gotten about she played 3 games. Started, I think, only 1, if this is to be believed. And it just, the numbers for me, kind of like, if she might get a game, she might get a game. I don't know. But I think that, one, they're going to prioritize someone like Hargrove because she's just proven herself in a strong program. And if we want to stay competitive, because I think the first season is how far can we do with what we're trying to do right now? And now it's, okay, now that we know, and now that we have a stronger core and we have some returning players, let's get them back in and let's put our best foot forward. So I think Hargrove is definitely going to step into that a lot more. But I will say that with Logan Marks, again, this is somebody who I believe just had their freshman year. Was it just their freshman year? Yes.
Yeah.
So just had their
spring, she started college early and played the spring season before her freshman year. So that was if you looked earlier this fall, there were some numbers, but that was for it was a very small sample size.
Right. Yes. And it was so hard to see that. But at the same time, with the freshman goalkeeper coming in, I feel like, one, she's going to lean on Hargrove to kind of learn, to kind of advance a little bit, even if she doesn't make those kind of less impactful starts maybe, or subs, or whatever that might be. But I think she's going to challenge. I think she's going to challenge for a spot or a game or something. And I think that would be exciting to just have the competitiveness of those. Because when you have a program where you see goalkeepers really challenging each other, sometimes it works. And sometimes it really works well, especially with an older coaching a younger player. So I think that will be interesting. But I do think it's probably going to be Hargrove starting a lot of these games. Hopefully, honestly. So
yeah, I think we would all be very excited about that. If it I think Lauren Hargrove is a player that we're all, having talked a little bit before the show, are really excited about. To not only watch this year, but also hopefully watch in the future at a professional level. So, but yeah, speaking to competition, I think one other thing about the 3 goalkeepers that we do have is that they're all seemingly from really strong college programs. So regardless of there's nothing that beats playing game minutes and seeing live action. But within those programs, hopefully they're seeing a competitive scene in practice, and again, learning from strong players who are, top keepers in their programs. So hopefully everybody comes in with, like you said, Allan, at least the ability to kind of push Lauren Hargrove more, challenge for some minutes, and also like selfishly for us as Ivy fans, if we're able to retain them going into future seasons, like sort of what does the future of the goalkeeper position look like for the Ivy? And I think it looks pretty strong from kind of the roster that we have now. So really excited to see. We're all really excited to see Lauren Hargrove, but also kind of see what develops behind her.
Agreed. And I crunched a couple of her numbers when I was putting together the sort of preseason report on our blog, and her numbers are just insane. Honestly, from this fall, she started all 23 matches. They played both conference and non-conference. 13 wins, 9 of which were clean sheets, which is just kind of insane for a conference as strong as Tech's. I don't know much about college soccer, but I know Tech is in a very strong conference. And the 13 wins were the most in a single season for women's soccer at Tech since 2015. And there was a stretch where she only conceded 1 goal in 6 games. So she really just had like an unbelievable season. Yeah.
I think I read also that 19 out of the 23 games she allowed 1 goal or fewer. So only 4 games this season she allowed 2 goals. Like if we can see that, then I feel pretty good about our chances.
Yeah. The best offense is a good defense, or is it the other way around?
Whichever way.
Yeah, it's all good.
Wind is blowing. Yeah.
If you're good at things, you're good at other things. Like that's,
right, exactly.
That's how it goes.
So these are good numbers. Obviously, like Hargrove didn't play very much this season before her breakout season with the Ivy. So ideally, she'll only sort of be stronger, hungrier, sharper than she was last season, which she already was pretty damn good. So bodes well for the keeper position if we see her there frequently. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into this, I think, when we start to talk about like new coach and new culture and that kind of stuff. But it'll be interesting to see like if any of that squad rotation changes, or if sort of like the perspective on who plays and how often do you play your best players versus sort of rotating and that kind of stuff, how much that changes. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
And like a lot of these teams are unknowns. So I mean, last season there were a couple teams that like the win was going to be a win sort of no matter who you put on the field. So like I guess we'll have to also see like whether there's any cannon fodder matches or if everybody's here to compete this season.
Yeah.
We can move into the defenders. This is a larger group than the goalkeepers, but still only 2 new faces in this group. So these are a lot of familiar names. I'll just run through the list really quickly. Mason Nelson, Ella Stanley, Kenley Campbell, Ava Pustover, Walker Bristow, Bree Fulkerson, and Alexis Pierce are our returners, with the 2 new faces being Becca Doolittle and Sophie Stroud. I will say Sophie Stroud was listed as a defender / midfielder. So I took the 50-50, stuck her in with the defense because there was only other 1 new name. So I truly have no idea what position she plays. College teams also never like to specify whether or not someone tends to play center back or outside, or which side they play on. So we only kind of learned about these players from actually seeing them play for the Ivy. So I don't know if that's just because college coaches don't want to have their players specialize too deeply. They want to kind of have players who can rotate across the back line, or if they just don't really care about sharing that information. So again, some unknowns in terms of where they actually play. They don't post starting 11s. Like it's pretty actually hard to find out what's going on in these games unless you're watching them. So what are the names that stand out to you all in this group?
I'll go first. Yeah. Ella Stanley, I think, is a big one for me. She played in all 21 games this year for JMU. She started 14 of those. Seems like she was sort of a stalwart for the JMU defense. And then also bringing in another one of her college teammates in Sophie Stroud. So we don't know a ton yet, like you said, about Sophie Stroud, but I don't think she got a ton of minutes at JMU, but obviously practicing together every day, and you would expect that they would have some sort of a connection on the field. So I think the duo from JMU are who I'm excited to see.
And for me, it was like you were saying, it's so tough to figure out who's playing where, because I was trying to do some depth charting and some like figuring out, and then I just randomly started throwing out there may be a defensive midfielder, maybe they're because they're like a midfielder or they're defender. I don't know. College doesn't know. Nobody knows. So who's to say? But so similar names like we were thinking, Ella Stanley, obviously. I thought players that are going to push for minutes, which I kind of specified, like some of my ones that I think like people like Nelson, Stanley, and Campbell, I think are people who probably are going to start some of these games, just based on numbers, and vibes. That's kind of what we're going on at the moment. But Pustover and Doolittle, I think, are going to push for it. Especially Doolittle. And again, we've talked about how sometimes we don't know what these conferences are like, or, you know, how easy something is to another one. Like you could have a collegiate conference where you're basically playing like glorified high school teams. And that's highly possible. And maybe that's why you're getting so many games. And maybe that's why you're getting so many clean sheets. I don't know, but you know, like soccer's a tough sport. So I'm assuming if you got that many stats at this point, at this level, you're probably somewhat decent. So I think somebody, especially like Doolittle, where 9 clean sheets out of 15 games is really good. So I have to think there's going to be some pushing for that. I put Bristow and Pierce a little bit lower than the other ones. Fulkerson is kind of another unknown, clean sheets somewhat. But, and again, Roanoke is a program that I don't think is going to be that impressive. But again, 18 games played. So like I said, there's a reason they're all on the roster. Part of that reason is a lot of them are just from Richmond, which is fair. But they're also very decent soccer players at the collegiate level, like regardless of where their program is. So I think those are the ones that I would look out for. But Doolittle's an unknown that I'm desperate to actually see.
And she was announced earlier on, and they seem to sort of front load who they think are maybe going to be the bigger name signings. So her being announced relatively early on, to me at least, was them trying to communicate this as a player that they're excited about. So have to hope that. The other sort of a little bit of an unknown is that we found out sort of midway through the player announcements that Kimmy wouldn't be returning. So I also don't know like how much of the scouting was for a Kimmy setup versus an Owusu setup. I think she was announced before Kimmy announced that she was leaving. No bad blood from what I've heard. Kimmy works for Capital One and got a promotion or a job change that put her in the DC office more than the Richmond office, or out of the Richmond office entirely. So just was not able to swing coaching the Ivy while balancing the job that actually pays her the money she lives on. So there's no sort of like drama there. Everyone wishes her the best. And obviously we're sad to see her go, but this isn't necessarily a field that you're making your millions in. So you always got to respect when somebody has to.
It's not. This is my first episode. I thought, all right, never mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The ad money hasn't started.
Just one other thing that I think will be interesting, particularly when we think about like defenders and center back pairings, or just like defensive pairings in general, will be how much like Allan kind of already alluded to this, that like a lot of them grew up in the Richmond area or are from Richmond, so they probably played together to some extent growing up. But if you can sort of like push that to the side, I wonder how much, like how important it will be, especially early on in the year, for like these defenders that played with the Ivy last year and maybe have played together in City Stadium before, and how important that will be in terms of like building a defensive pairing relationship versus the sort of two new faces. Figuring out where they slot in and who they work well with, and how that impacts the depth chart and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm scrolling through a couple of the games last season and looking at the starting 11s. Pustover and Pierce are names that come up playing on the outside. Ella Stanley has played on the outside. Center backs were often Kenley Campbell played a lot at center back, along with Lindsay Muniak, who is not returning, Aaron Junkman, who is not returning. And Ella Stanley has also played center back. So, and Mason Nelson was also a name who played frequently at center back. So there was a little bit of movement between who was playing outside and who was playing centrally. Pustover is pretty solid. Played 11, started 11 last season at I can never remember. One of my other strong suit is never remembering who plays on the left and who plays on the right. That is absolutely meaningless to me, even though I know that's incredibly important in terms of like dominant foot. I know that that is true. It has never registered in my brain as something to keep track of. Ava Pustover pretty much started every game at right back, though. So was the preferred player in that position. So although I was expecting because of that she was actually going to have, that was going to translate to a stronger selection at VCU, but she did not necessarily get the minutes at VCU. That I would have thought after being basically the first name on the defensive team sheet for the entire Ivy season last season. She only earned 300 minutes. Maybe she picked up an injury, like there could have been sort of extenuating circumstances, but I was definitely hopeful that Ivy season was going to translate into a stronger collegiate one. It didn't. So I wonder, if other players will now make a push to sort of compete there, or if she will continue to sort of be the first choice defender. She also, this is another sidebar, but a lot of these players were not able to commit to being at every game. The available squads changed a lot week to week. Players who were preferred starters would just often not be in the team at all because they were on vacation or working. All sorts of things were
on international duty with the Jamaican national team.
On international duty.
Minor things like that.
Exactly. So Ava Pustover was a player who made herself available for the majority of the season. She was available for selection for 11 games and was chosen. So there's that also to factor in, is that they are choosing players based on a number of factors, not just necessarily quality, but availability and dedication and things like that. So
yeah, it's interesting. Speaking of that, and speaking of Ava Pustover being from VCU, two players that I am seeing one from VCU and one from U of R, I kind of expected more, particularly from VCU, just with new head coaching ties to VCU and that kind of stuff. There to be the roster a little bit more filled out with the hometown schools. Not that UVA and Tech are super far away by any means, but I found that to be a little bit interesting.
I think speaking to that, which you don't often think about, but is actually true a lot of the time. And I found this especially with, weirdly, my college team was full of internationals. I don't know why. Very strange for an art school to do that. But so a lot of these teams, especially when you look at them and you look at the roster lineup, and I actually had the same thought, Alex, as you. I was like, why are there not as many VCU or U of R players? And honestly, it's because a lot of those starting teams are people who are not from Richmond. And I think that there is definitely a priority for players who can be here and have housing here. Not just collegiate and not just whatever, actual, just their parents or grandparents or whoever lives here, and they are here for the summer. So they are available for the summer. Because I was looking at a lot of the VCU players and they're they're from Maryland or, Arkansas. And so I think it's weird. And maybe we'll next year, maybe next year's Ivy, there'll be
there were 4 last season, Lindsay Maniac and Kana were both VCU players as well. So it is interesting because Kana wasn't from here, but she wanted to stay and did.
Yeah, and I think it's a cool for just your average Richmond Ivy fan, to transition from watching Kana at City Stadium, to watching Kana play for VCU. It's just right down the road. So if you became a huge Kana fan or a big Ivy fan and you just wanted to stay in it, it was really easy to do that. Now we obviously still have a couple players that you can go and watch, but just a little bit different.
So I think names, I was just going to mention is that Mason Nelson was a pretty regular starter at center back and Ava Pustover was pretty solid at right back. So they built good chemistry last season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing again, but a lot of players did build their resumes in the off season and earn their places in their respective starting 11s for their collegiate team. So we could see a shakeup as a result of that. Moving into the midfielders, This one is, I think this is one of the ones where we're missing some names from the midfielders that maybe we were hoping to see. But there are some interesting unknowns added here as well. So the names, a quick rundown are, and this is mostly in the order of which they were announced. All of the positions so far: Kylie Fitzgerald, Sarah Flamia, Macy Landell, Issa Elavara, Morgan Oliver, Dakota Brown. I did not listen to the pronunciation guide on her collegiate website. I am sorry. Gianna Shoppeck, Ava Jung, and drum roll, at long last, Jill Flamia has been announced for the 2025 Ivy season. I assume the late announcement means she is actively not injured at this moment, so we might actually see her pull on an Ivy jersey this season. We'll chat about her a little bit more at the end. She's kind of one of those big names. But to start off, what are the names that stuck out in this group for you all?
So for me, there were a lot of names that popped off. Obviously, Kylie is one that I think is going to be a big one. Obviously, former Ivy captain. That's going to be a name that I think we're all kind of looking for. I don't know why. I wrote this down in my notes. I was underlining it. Macy Landell. Because she exploded in her second season specifically, which I thought was fascinating. Because I think that it's really interesting when you get a player that's okay, they're building minutes, or they had 2 starts last season. Now they have 5. And it's great, awesome, cool. But she just blew up and then started 19 games and out of not doing that at all. So I think either maybe it was the season she had played in before. Who knows if it was that season, or who knows what happened. But I think it's very interesting when you get a player like that that's coming off a really high confidence season and what they're going to be able to do with that. So I am really interested into what she is going to do. Especially Morgan Oliver is another one, up to her appearances and up to her apps on that one. So I think that I'm just fascinated by especially midfielders, because it's such a competitive position to play in. You have so many people going for that. You have so many people that are reorganizing themselves, especially in college programs, to go I'm going to actually play midfielder now. I didn't work that so much at forward. I'm going to do midfielder, or I didn't work out at defender. I'm going to work at midfielder. Midfielder is kind of where everybody gets pushed a lot of the time. And to continue that and to actually make that into a starting position is a highly impressive feat. So I think that it will be interesting to see them play. And especially when I noted when I was watching some of these games from before, which again, did not have access to all of them, but the ones that I did watch, getting that control into the midfield is paramount for a lot of the stuff that we want to do with the team last year, but definitely probably this year again. So if we can get these two, especially to work out and to get something going, I think I'll be really interested in them. So
yeah, Dakota Brown is a name for me that I am very interested to see. Limited appearances with us last year, but at Tennessee this past season, from everything that I can find, she played a lot of minutes. And Tennessee and the SEC, a Power 5 conference, I would imagine a strong level of competition that she's seeing in games that she's playing in all the time. 0 goals last year, only 1 start. So be really interested to see if she can take a big leap forward this year. And that's a name that I think I'm pretty excited about.
I'll even add to that, because we're mentioning the SEC conference, and I completely forgot about this. But I've seen a lot of SEC NCAA women's college games live, especially UGA in Athens, and the level of competition, I think, especially within the last few years, has actually really increased. The level at SEC women's soccer has gotten way bigger, because the South generally, I'm biased from there, but it has generally gotten better across the board, and SEC colleges know that. And so for her to start with Tennessee and for her to play that many minutes is genuinely a really good sign. So I would say that, just to speak from that experience.
Yeah. The SEC being a strong conference bodes well for when we get into our forwards discussion and maybe some new players we have coming there as well. So, but I won't get ahead. If you want to talk about who you're excited for in the midfield.
Yeah, I think obviously seeing 2 of the 3 preferred starters in the midfield returning in Kylie Fitzgerald and Sarah Flamia is really exciting because the midfield was what a lot of the ball moved through the midfield last season in a very controlled, calm way, which you've watched a lot of sort of lower league soccer. That's just not always true. So it was relatively impressive with like the sort of control that the midfield trio of Fitzgerald, Flamia, and Heaton were, enacting on games. Obviously, Hannah Heaton is a name that we have not seen back. Wishing her the best, but she was a really important sort of puzzle piece for the Ivy last season. So with her not returning, there is kind of a gap in, I would think, who this preferred starting midfield trio is. So yeah, there's some players who definitely will be looking to make a case for themselves. Dakota Brown's numbers, yeah, again, I did not expect that because as far as I remember, she also did not play very much. She is I have like 8 tabs open and blinking back. She is a rising senior. So
yeah.
For her junior season to break out like that, that's bodes well for her progression. And yeah, that is going to be ideally, hopefully that was a competitive squad and she earned her place in that starting 11. And hopefully we will see a player of her like showing that quality for the Ivy as well. Sarah is another big returning name. I know outside of Kana, she was a lot of people's sort of favorite player. She was a high schooler last season. She was in her senior year. Just really, really tidy on the ball. Kind of a lower center of gravity, so was able to sort of shield the ball very well. And that was not a name anyone was expecting to. That was not the Flamia anyone was expecting to be excited about last season, I don't think. Her sister Jill, who's a year older than she is, 2 years older. She redshirted last season. So 2 years. Was the sort of marquee signing next to Cameron Simmons because she's been involved in the youth national team setup, which is incredibly hard to do. There's so few players who actually make it to an in-person camp. So having one of those in our team was a massive prospect. Sarah was unbelievably good. Hopefully she has only gotten better now that she's at UVA with her sister, with several of the other players in the Ivy squad. But now we might actually get to see Jill. And Rob Ukrop himself told me last season at the beginning of the season when I was raving about how good Sarah was, he said, well, if you think she's good, wait till you see your sister. I would have loved to see her sister last season. Unfortunately, it did not come to be. She was injured. She picked up an injury that also led to her, again, redshirting her sophomore season. So Jill will be a rising sophomore. She'll be a redshirt sophomore this upcoming, or she wasn't. She will be a redshirt sophomore this fall. So that is a name that I'm very excited. I don't, again, like it's hard to know specifically what the attributes of these players are when you haven't seen them. But if we could see the Flamia sisters in the midfield, both of whom we've heard tell of their talents and we've seen one in the flesh, that could be really, really, really exciting. And also it's exciting to possibly have depth in the midfield. It really felt like there was that strongest midfield trio and then the drop off was pretty steep. So maybe this just means that we actually get to rotate and there's quality coming in and that it doesn't sort of fall off, as subs come on.
Yeah, I think especially when you're talking about that rotation, it's just so key because sometimes you get into those games where it's a mosh pit in the middle and you're just trying to figure out a way through and the combination isn't working and whatever. And then you look at the bench and you're like, but we could just keep doing this, I guess, for the next like 20 or 30 minutes and maybe something will get through. And now you can look at it and go, all right, we're going to try this. We're going to do it now. We're going to now get a pivot in. We're going to get somebody playing like tricky. We're going to try some stuff. And that's exciting. I think that's to your point. That's thrilling to have depth finally.
Yeah. And sort of one other name, Issa Elavara. The Elavara family obviously is an important one here in Richmond. Her father, Mika, is on the coaching staff for the Richmond Kickers, and he's sort of the technical director and oversees the Kickers Academy. So not the youth program, but the academy under the Kickers. And Issa actually, he told me we chatted with him at the away game in Charlottesville last season. He came to watch, so was able to just sort of catch up with him informally on the sidelines. And he was saying that Issa is, oh my gosh, sorry. Let me make sure I have her school, because it's a big.
I've got her at UCF.
Yeah. UCF. Yeah. So she could have stayed closer to home, he said, and sort of walked into the starting 11 of a smaller program, a less competitive program in a less competitive conference. And she could have easily done that. She was a very talented player. She is a freshman this season. This fall was a freshman, and she redshirted, if I have my, yes, she redshirted. So she did not get a considerable number of minutes, but she chose to become a smaller fish in a big pond, because she said, I know what my floor is, and I know ideally what my ceiling is, and I want to get as close to my ceiling as I possibly can. I want to push myself in a bigger program, playing with better coaches, with better players, in more competitive matches. And again, she did the classic. She chose to redshirt, so she is maximizing her eligibility as well, which is really smart thing to do. So she is a player who has been training in a very good program for the past year. She comes from a family of very good soccer players, a very smart technical soccer player. She was sort of a bit piece, was plugging in when sort of in the middle of the season, there were a lot of players unavailable for selection. She picked up a good run of games. She was playing at center back. She was playing in the midfield. She's young. She was only a high schooler then, and is now has a year of collegiate training under her belt. So I'm excited to see how she's grown in this offseason, because she comes from a pedigree of great footballers. And she loves the city of Richmond. Her dad coaches for the Kickers. So she's someone who is really excited about, playing for the city, playing in this program. So ideally we'll also get to see her for several years to come, since she is so young. So hopefully that will have paid off, and we'll get to see her a little bit more this upcoming season. And maybe we'll even get to chat with Mika about his perspective on the Ivy season as well, because he is a yapper. You get him talking and he will not shut up. So, which we love. So that is one sort of name just to flag there at the end. And I did mention, so one of the midfielders, I would say Kana was sort of a midfielder / forward, but Hannah Heaton and Kana are two non-returners in this group. We'll get to Kana. I put her down. We'll talk about where she is now. This is not a sad story, but it's sad for us.
I'm feeling sad though.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
We need a new cult hero. The
True.
door is open.
True.
Maybe that'll be our closer, who we think will become the sort of breakout star of this season, who will become the Kana. Okay, our final player group are our forwards. This is also a pretty small group, at least from who is marked as a traditional forward. The 4 names, and half of them are new, which is pretty exciting. So the names that we know are Taylor Berry and Cameron Simmons. And the 2 new names are Olivia Woodson and Sania Tucker. So this is exciting, because there's some known quantities and then some unknown quantities in this group. Somebody kick us off with who they're excited about, maybe other than Cam. Cam's the known quantity. Maybe we'll touch on the other 3 first.
So we've only got 3 left, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
We each get to pick one. No.
Yes.
I think, God, I don't want to steal Olivia Woodson, because we have a whole segment for who we're excited about coming into the team. Yeah. I think Taylor Berry, very much a known quantity. The thing that I think from our forwards group this year that I'm interested in, and also our midfielders, looking at the stats from last year, 24 goals, the fewest in our division. How do we get more out of up top? I think Taylor Berry can definitely take a step forward and put some more goals in the back of the net. It looks like of our returning players, she has the highest goal involvement from players coming back. So 3 goals, 2 assists. would love to see that jump up to sort of get closer to the 7 that Kana bagged last year. But we'll see. But yeah, I think Taylor Berry is one name that we know a lot about like what Taylor Berry's game is. She can put the ball in the back of the net, and I'm looking forward to seeing that at City this year.
Great.
Okay, so this is again going to be biased because I'm speaking as a former forward. This is going to be my wheelhouse a little bit, but so watching the Ivy last season, especially something that I noticed is that we ran that team through our wing play a lot of time. And we ran it through, again, quick plays off of usually taking it to the right, really quick in crosses or something to the back. Like that happened a lot. We did not have a traditional, a lot of the time, some of the time. There's one game specifically that I wrote down was the game where we got 8 goals. And that was the game where genuinely everyone was a traditional attacking forward and we would just run past people like they were Play-Doh.
I think there were also 9 players on the field.
I was going to say, well, and one person arrived like halfway through the game and was like, I'm here.
They were stuck in traffic on 95.
Pre-professional league. Pre-professional. We shouldn't emphasize pre. But,
so rough.
But I think if we can get somebody in there, and obviously we'll talk about Woodson and Simmons in that role, in that traditional kind of striker number 9, like solid role, advanced forward. But the name, again, if I'm going to take the other name on the list that we didn't talk about, again, hometown girl to me, because of the city of Atlanta. So GSU's program, I know from what I know about GSU's program, it's somewhat strong. Like it's a decent competitor within its league. I'm not even sure exactly who they play a lot of the time, but I do know that it was good enough for her to get 17 games, 12 starts out of those. Low on the angles for goals and assists. However, and I will say this, is that with some of these college teams, especially, and the thing about her playing forward, and obviously I don't know exactly which position she's playing for. Does that mean she's playing as a left, like a winger? Like sometimes but sometimes they can be deceptively low in a lot of these times, especially if you're somebody who plays kind of a little bit more behind or a little bit more to the side. You could get more of those kind of hockey assists that we don't really count, or you could be really, really integral in the kind of build-up play between some of the other midfielders and things like that. If she is a forward that I think could play, I don't know, because I didn't really know how many traditional wingers we have, but if she could be one of those and getting any service into the 2 people we will just now talk about in just a moment, if we can get service into those 2, I think honestly it's go time. Like it is. I think if you are just solid enough in that position to be able to get the ball in to those types of forwards, I think her numbers are going to be a lot better than we've seen in her last college season.
The other stat that I had written down from her was that she took 18 shots, 9 of which were on target. So I'm not too upset with a 50% shot on target rate, because maybe she's not shooting as much as a traditional forward, but creating higher quality opportunities, especially since she then scored 2 goals from that. So 9 shots on target with 2 goals from that is not terrible numbers. Some forwards are shot spammers who are just whacking it with low. I hate like XG sort of whatever probability chat. Like that's not.
Oh, I'm such a nerd. I love a good XG.
Okay, great.
Kill the game. Kill the game.
I'll still handle the XG, but
I'll
that's
be the nerd.
something to like consider, is that you have players who also only take higher quality shots who are not necessarily just hitting it at any given opportunity. So that's something to consider, I guess. So that leaves us with 2 of the names that I think raised a lot of green flags. It took a while we could start with Cam, the known quantity, because she kind of is, we know her game. I will say she, from what I can tell, AKA what Elliot has told me, because he follows the Simmons family a lot closer than I do, Cameron actually played a lot of center back this season.
I saw that she was listed as a defender / forward.
Yes.
It was back to that thing of like, does whoever's making the websites for the colleges really know what position the players are playing? I was kind of chalking it up to like, do they know? But yeah, if it's real, then that's interesting.
It allegedly is real. That was one of the last things I was trying to look into to see if I could find any sort of starting 11s or like just find any proof of this or find out maybe what proportion of the game she was playing at center back. I'll have to ask Elliot the next time he sees us. We can have him on as a special Simmons family correspondent. But he said that she played a lot of center back, which there was a girl on my club team in high school who was a forward for her school, and she was a forward in college, and she played center back exclusively for our club team. Those positions are the two sides of the same coin in that you're heading the ball in the box. One's going one way, one's going the other way. There's one is chasing the center forward, one is the center forward. Yeah. So there's the positions are incredibly similar in terms of the physical profile that makes a successful player at either of those positions. Tall, fast, good with the ball at your feet, good at heading the ball. So if somebody has a good soccer head, they can often transition between those two. I think it's a little bit harder to score goals as a center back. So it's like a little harder to go the other direction. But if you need someone, but there's a reason that the center backs get sent up on corners to hang out in the 6-yard box, because you're tall, you're imposing, you know how to win the ball out of the air and ideally stick it in the net. So there's similarities in those positions. So I'm not necessarily shocked. If she was like a traditional winger, then I think I'd be a little more surprised. But she is tall. She's very well built. She's got pace on her. She's got great control of the ball. So I would just love to know, was it an injury? Like did their center backs both go down with like the flu? Like what happened personnel wise?
I also wonder if it's is it bigger than just like playing in college? Is it is Jamaica really strong at forward, but they're looking for center backs, or she feels like she has a better chance of playing in an NWSL team, or I don't know what, but I think for her, it's probably beyond just
maybe
what's
it's
happening
not
in college.
Yeah, she's not trying to compete with Bunny Shaw at the center forward position.
I don't know if Bunny Shaw has given up that position anytime soon.
Yeah. So no, that's a great point. She could just be adding dimension to her game, and because she still contributed this season. So she transferred in the off season last year she transferred from Tennessee to FSU. So is that was an upgrade program wise?
I would say probably
the coach transferred. The coach went from Tennessee to FSU.
Yeah, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and we also just talked about not on the show. Nobody on the show heard about it, but before the show, we were talking about how both of the participants in the college national championship last year were from the ACC, which Florida State plays in. So you'd imagine that the ACC is pretty strong.
Right. So yeah, that's good for Cam. I don't think, probably by her own admission, did not have the season she would have expected for the Ivy last season. She came in, I think everyone was kind of expecting her to be the franchise player to a certain extent, being, the only collegiate player currently in the mix who's in the consideration for a senior national team, playing at one of the top programs in the country, contributing regularly, actually getting minutes. But she ended up not scoring quite as many goals as we would have hoped. I'm trying to find her in my end of season tracker. She ended up having only 1 goal and 1 assist, which coming in, I think all expected those numbers to be a little higher. So ideally but she also, I think on the flip side of that was she felt a lot of pressure last season because she was coming in as kind of the biggest name on the roster with the sort of hopes of a city pinned on her shoulders. Her brother was already playing for the Kickers. So he scored last season, he scored his first professional goal last season, and he's her younger brother. So, there was a lot riding, I think, on the Ivy season for her. So you could tell in a lot of the matches that she felt that pressure was tangible in a lot of ways. She got very frustrated a lot during the matches when, she wasn't getting the opportunity she was looking for. She wasn't converting the opportunity she was getting. So hopefully maybe this season she can come in with a little less of that pressure, feel a little less of that pressure, maybe play a little bit more free, a little with fewer expectations and just kind of play her game, because she's never had a problem scoring at the collegiate level.
And I think that's a great segue because the person who might take some of that spotlight off is Olivia Woodson. Which
and the
is
crowd
like
goes wild.
Yeah, legit though, but like
Yeah.
legit. And
Yeah.
I was watching some highlights and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be good. She gets into some really good positions too, just as an IQ, like forward IQ stuff. Like she's just there when you need to be there. And there's some goals that just come in, and I mean, she just had positioned it so perfectly. I think she will, like, it will be another problem, right? Like she will have that hype coming in and that expectation going in. But I think she plays it definitely more like as an out and out forward. And I think she maybe will take some of those opportunities a little bit more just by her profile that I saw her, at least. And again, like I said, I've been watching Auburn the whole time. Like I didn't keep track of her, but from the little that I have seen from like the highlights and from the little packages I've seen, and comparing that to what I saw with Simmons last season, especially like positional play, I think she genuinely plays at a different positional style as a forward than Simmons did. And I think that, I don't know, like I said, if everything clicks like a clock, we could have a really good forward with a lot of really good service. So I kind of expect a lot from that.
Sorry, Olivia. I know you're a sophomore in college, but
But just like everything that we like care about and hope for, like depends upon you. So
yeah.
if you could just do something about that, that would be like so nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, like, not even necessarily about Olivia Woodson, which obviously super excited. 11 goals, I think 3 assists at Auburn this year. Like, seems electric from everything that we've seen. I think the thing that I'm like sitting here just like itching about is I cannot wait for this, like, well, we read this here and we've seen these highlights there and like all this kind of stuff. I cannot wait for like next week when we're recording Vinecast to be like, this is what we literally physically saw and it was awesome. I'm really excited to like get going so that we have like real meat on the bone to kind of go through.
Yeah, because I mean, her numbers are great. She took 46 shots and put 26 on target, which is pretty good. Again, when we're talking like, we're talking a little bit numbers than we just did with Sania. So like, again, someone who takes a lot of shots, but you love to see it because I think that was a bit of an issue last season.
Open up a window over there, Allan.
Like, oh man, a forward with that many goals. Oh my god, yeah. And she was, what did I write down? She was like the first woman in 8 years to record double-digit goals for Auburn. Like insane. So like, oh my god, yeah.
And only second team all SEC. We got to figure out who that was. That was kind of like. And how do we're going to vote next year? We're going to be the voters next year.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stuff the ballot box. So really exciting stuff because if she could be that good and still only make second team, like again, she's playing in some very competitive matches against some very competitive players. So getting those numbers in that context is just incredibly impressive. All right, so we've talked your ear off for almost an hour about just the squad. So the next few sections won't take us as long because honestly, there's just like less to dig into. The next section, the one notable non-returner that we just have to briefly mention because you know her, you love her, and luckily we have our first pro coming out of the Richmond Ivy, Kana Matsuhisa. I cannot speak Norwegian, so does anyone else want to give a stab at how to pronounce the name of the team she currently plays for?
What is the team? Can you give me the name of the team? And because I know I follow them on Instagram now.
Kolbotn football.
Football? Hold on.
You know what the most annoying thing is about like where Kana chose to play professional footy? You know the thing on Instagram that's like translate this post? It doesn't translate. It doesn't know. Instagram doesn't know how to speak that. And so like I'm trying to figure out like, oh my God, I see Kana in the background of the picture. What's going on? And it's like, sorry, can't tell you. It's a
No.
secret.
Kolbotn, I think.
Kolbotn?
I think it's like an oo sound. I think
Cool.
with that. I only know I can only utilize so much of my wife's quarter Swedishness to like come in and like help me out with that, but I think that's it.
Threadbare
Yeah,
connection.
but incredible. Yeah.
Yes, and she's already scored her first goal. Like, she is doing what we would have hoped. I know a lot of people were hoping that she might have started her professional season a little closer to home, maybe with like DC Power or something like that. But Norway is, when you're talking historically for women's soccer, Norway is one of those countries that has always put together a strong national team, has always prioritized the game. So you love to see someone going back to sort of WOSO roots, throw it back to Norway. Let's get some players at Turbine Potsdam. Like, let's really get it.
We're all in. The Ivy to Norway pipeline is just gonna be so strong.
Right. It's and Issa's and the Elevaras are Finnish. So we could really get, and Issa's been called up to the youth national team for Finland. So we could really be getting a Scandinavian pipeline going.
It's so funny you mentioned that because it is such an OG streets will never forget. Like, just the level of women's soccer players that would go over to like Sweden and like AIK and like just go over there and ball in the Women's Champions League circa like 2007. Like, that is so good. So honestly, listen, she gets a season or two under her belt, and she either, I do know, so it's weird.
She falls in love with the happiest culture on planet Earth and never wants to leave Norway. Could be one option.
That's the risk. The risk you take by going
the
to
risk is that
Scandinavia
Kana
at
becomes
all.
super happy.
Yeah, the risk is you realize that's where you're supposed to be, which I wish I could be in her position and be in Norway and have that happening to me. But I do know that, like, traditionally, because she is Japanese, and with that, I think that I thought, because I knew in my heart of hearts, I was like, she's gonna go pro. She was so good, and I was like, she just has this drive to her that I just felt that. I felt like either she goes back home to the J League setup with women's soccer. However, the thing about that is there are so many Japanese women's players that come to play here a lot of the time. So it's like, part of me was thinking if she would have gone there, she might have gone somewhere else, like there and then Europe and there, or here and then Europe and wherever that might have been. Part of me was like, well, would she do a season here and then go back home? But I feel like generally, like how women's soccer is set up, she might do a season or two in Norway, get a lot of really, really great competition under her belt, get some more stuff with like her agent, whatever, and then maybe come back and pivot that into an NWSL, hopefully, or something to that effect. Because I think
we will take Super League. We'll take
Super League.
I mean, top tier. Well, also NWSL. Not that we want Kana to play in a tier 2 league, but NWSL introducing the tier 2, like just more opportunity. So
more opportunities. Yeah. So very excited for Kana. Everyone, we've all have our second team in the top division of the Norwegian Women's Professional League. So everyone, they're in season now. She's already scoring goals.
Set your calendar reminders.
Yeah, exactly. 3 a.m.
Figure out how to watch them. Yeah.
Norway time. I don't know what time zone they're in. So very excited. They're in the aptly named Top Syrian in Norway.
Top Syrian. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Some good cognates there. All right, we'll move quickly into our next section, which is that we have a new coach. Unfortunately, we have not gotten the opportunity to talk to him directly yet. I'm still hoping we'll be able to get something on the calendar early in the season so we can hear directly from him about sort of his coaching style, what his goals for this team are, what he's looking for in his setup, what he's Kimmy was very candid in that she wanted to play possession-based ball, but she also wanted to score a lot of goals and create a lot of opportunities. So which were
we tried.
There were like 4 games where that was true.
Yeah.
But unfortunately we were in a tough division, and we'll get to that next. But I'll just give a quick overview for anyone who doesn't know about Owusu Sekiri, because he is sort of been a cult figure here in Richmond because of his connections to playing professional soccer here in Richmond. He is Ghanaian. He came to Richmond originally playing when he played for VCU in college. He was there from 2006 to 2009. A couple years after that, he started his, I won't say professional, because neither of his first two teams were professional teams, or they're not currently, with RVA FC, which it was its last season based in Richmond. It's now Fredericksburg FC in Fredericksburg, playing in the NPSL. And then the 2014 season, he moved to the Charlotte Eagles, which are now in USL 2. Off of that, he earned a move to the Kickers in 2015. He played for the Kickers until 2018, and across all competitions made 96 appearances and scored 4 goals. While he was playing for the Kickers, as many players do, he became a coach in the Kickers youth program setup. He's basically been a coach with Kickers youth ever since 2015. So he's come on a decade now, being involved with the youth setup here in Richmond for the Kickers. But in the intervening years, in the early 2020, 2021 to 2024, he had stints at VCU, then went to GMU, George Mason, and then back to VCU as assistant, interim head coach. So a lot of roles there at the collegiate level. And he is now coaching with Richmond United, which is the Kickers youth program evolved in the offseason to merge strikers, kickers into Richmond United. So most of the top coaches are now coaching under the Richmond United setup. So he's been involved in the soccer scene in Richmond for a very long time. He has a chant from the Red Army for him. So hopefully we'll be able to repurpose that to support him. And it's really exciting to see players who are not originally from Richmond, but who develop strong roots to the soccer community here and continue to invest and continue to stay and shape the future players of tomorrow. So to see him play, now collegiately at the youth level and now at the pre-professional level, I think it's a nice sort of full circle story, which we love a narrative. We love a narrative. And that's ideally he's had great success at the collegiate level. VCU made playoffs or whatever it is in the collegiate system, and they won the title when he was an assistant coach.
They won their first ever A10 regular season when he was the interim head coach, I think, for VCU. Big deal.
Yeah. Any thoughts, guys? I know we don't have a ton of info again on like his coaching style because it's impossible to know with college and youth.
So for me, who is a self-professed Richmond relative newbie, I think the narrative and the story is like what gets me excited for like being not only like living in Richmond and being a part of like the Kickers and the Ivy and everything, but also just like what like just like the lower league culture and what it's all about, I think, because it's cool. Like my dream, the first Kickers game that I went to like 2 years ago was, oh my God, Matt Turner played for here. How cool would it be if I'm watching, the next Matt Turner or something, like somebody that I will see then later on and be like, I saw them play for my team on the Kickers. And so to have these people that, played for the program and you remember them as a player and come back around as a coach for, a program tied to the program and that kind of stuff is like a really cool, like full circle moment, like you said. And so for me, I wasn't around for his playing days, but now it gets me excited for whether it be with the Ivy or with the Kickers. I'd love for it to be with the Ivy. Like a player that goes on to play somewhere big, or a player that comes back and coaches and that kind of stuff, and just to have that like tight knit community full circle moment where somebody comes back around, I think would be really cool.
We're building it. Foundation is being built.
There we go.
Any thoughts, Allan?
Yeah, it's basically Alex hit pretty much the main points. It's a great narrative. We just don't have any information on him about how he likes to play, how he wants to play, like how the team is going to get set up. So it's just going to be one of those things where we're going to cheer. We're going to be really excited for what he does. We hope for the best. We hope for a lot of success with this. But really, I think we'll start to see it when we can maybe get some kind of information from him specifically, maybe even about like his reasonings for things, his sort of perspective, and then obviously just seeing how he sets up his team. Because everything on paper is like, yeah, cool, like really, really great. But again, it is one of those things of like, I have no idea how this is gonna go. So we'll see just how it is. Yeah. So I think I'm a happy unknown.
And
Yeah, and
everyone,
hopefully it just adds more continuity. You know, like hopefully we get, like last year we got a season of Kimmy. Now we don't have that. So hopefully we get a few seasons now, and things don't change so much.
Long may he reign.
A vision. And everyone all together now. What we will sing is, oh, Wusu Sekiri. Oh, Wusu Sekiri. Luckily, very easy to pick up.
It is. Wow.
Singing it.
It rolls off. That's good. Yeah.
And hopefully he'll give us many, many reasons to sing it, as his tactical mastermindery has us winning every game at home, regardless of competition. And that's a great segue into who the heck we will be playing this season. And again, this is unfortunately not going to be a super in-depth. We don't have a lot of information to go off because of the 5 teams in the division. 3 of them are new, 5 including the Ivy. And the Ivy and Charlottesville started last season. So very, very open from we have no information. We have no information on any of these teams. We didn't even get a team name for the Norfolk W League until like a month ago.
Yeah.
And they just decided to be also Virginia blank blank. So we got 2 teams that are the Blues, 2 teams that have Virginia in the name. It's really a lot of creativity on display here in the Chesapeake Division. Hi.
But you know, the flip side of that, like, no, we don't know anything about these teams, but what we do know is that USL W League is growing. There's new blood, like the fact that we have a team or a division of 5 teams that all were formed in the last 2 years is like very exciting. We have to be very excited about that. So it's the same thing. Like, everybody's going to play over the next few weeks. We're going to learn a lot about who these teams are. And we have the best branding in the division, and that's like what really matters.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can finally add to the conversation with this, because we were in Norfolk for a little bit when my wife was in medical school at EVMS, RIP, because that's now I forget what they call themselves now, but it's worse. Anyway, and we were there. I was a big part of the soccer scene team in that area, and especially coaching women's, because I coach girls soccer in that area. And I gotta say, especially the local youth team set up around there is Beach FC and Rush are the 2 really big ones. I think Rush is like everywhere. They've got like a Rush like pretty much everywhere, but very competitive. Hampton Roads area is literally, it's like the 2nd highest population center in all of Virginia, like other than Nova, for a reason. There's a ton of people, there's a ton of wealth in there, and there's a ton of soccer, especially at the youth level. I think if they're getting players from that pool, like we are getting players from ours, they could have some really talented people. Because when I was seeing the type of kids that were coming out of that and the type of girls that were playing in those division setups, like they were really good. So if they are getting those caliber players that are from that area, that are developed around those academies and developed around that stuff, they could be really good. Now, I will say this, Virginia Beach United is at least somewhat of a decently well-run organization. They're new-ish, but I think they made a run in the men's division last year in the playoffs in USL League 2. So far as I know, what's weird is that Lions Bridge is the other one that was really successful and continues for a long time. They don't have any USL W presence. But I think Virginia Atlantic is kind of somewhat connected to that. I'm not sure 100%, but the main thing is that they realize this is a massive thing for this area. I think they'll be highly supported, very much so.
Two teams like essentially a couple miles apart is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, and I think we could see that. Now, again, I could be completely wrong because what we saw.
We have no way to know.
We know. So who knows? But that's at least something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If they're pursuing the same sort of recruitment strategy that the Ivy is, then ideally, they'd have a rich pool of players to draw on. Yeah. I mean, and the only other thing, well, we saw what Charlottesville was about, and it wasn't very much. I mean, I don't think that's a dig against their organization, but if they were also, again, recruiting from their area, that's a much smaller population base. A lot of their good players play in Richmond, in the Richmond United setup rather than out there. So they have a little less of a deeper, like a pool to be pulling from. I did go to that away game, and I was disappointed by the fact that they did a double header on that Wednesday night. It was a Wednesday night game, Ivy versus Charlottesville women at 5 p.m. So there was essentially no one there. And then the men's were at the prime 7:30 kickoff, and that was against Lionsbridge, who, is a fun team in USL 2. It was the women's game it was a gritty. I think Taylor Berry or Maddie Vincent scored 1-0 win. It was like the Ivy only had like 3 or 4 subs. It was a nail biter a bit compared to the 5-0 win at the home opener last season. But the men's game was genuinely the most horrific game of soccer I've ever watched. Like, the players were talented enough, but like they wanted to kill each other. Like, they had no regard for like life or limb. They were just flinging themselves all over the field, like full-blooded challenges. Again, this is USL 2. Like, I know that there's a chance that you can get noticed in USL 2 and like transition to like a USL 1 team or something, but it was like scary. At one point, the guys were going up for a header and a guy came down on his neck and they had to clear the field and do the full like sensation check down his whole body to make sure he had not paralyzed himself on the field. They had to have like both like the trainers from both coaches come, like both teams come over, because they were both like leaping so high in the air and like undercutting each other and like falling on their back. Like it was like unenjoyable to watch. And I did hear, I missed last season, the Kickers filled out their season ticket package with a friendly against Lionsbridge. And that was the kind of takeaway from that game as well, with that Lionsbridge like would have been fine injuring every single member of the Kickers if they didn't get the result. That was also the game that Mr. Josh Kirkland scored his first goal for the Kickers when he was still trialist number 45. So that story at least had a happy ending, but that, like, everyone said the same thing. Like, USL, I don't know if this is just Lionsbridge or if USL 2 across the board is like this, but just like honestly violent, like violent and unenjoyable to watch. So I am so glad that USL W is not violent and actually a quality product on the field, and the players seem to actually want to play soccer and not just like enact as much violence as they can on each other. But I was very disappointed in how Charlottesville sort of put their women's team at B tier billing with essentially no crowd. And when as far as I can tell, both of the teams were not.
Did they do it again this year? Do we have a doubleheader scheduled there this year? Do you know?
No. And what's disappointing is that's the easiest away day, and it's the schedule the same night as a home Kickers game. So they really missed do that to us. I was so excited for like a winery away day, you know, like actually a weekend, you know, 6 p.m. kickoff, getting to go to wineries and stuff. And so I think the one away day, I'm going to start the call now. There is an away day. It's the Norfolk match is on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. So I'm
guess who's gone for Memorial Day weekend?
Alex!
I'm not though. That's teacher
But how
time.
fun would that be?
Summer break. All
Vinecast listeners, if you're not going away or if you're going to Virginia Beach for Memorial Day weekend, you'll already be in the area. That's kind of the only one that's not a doubleheader with a home Kickers game, unfortunately. Or a week. They play Virginia Beach on a Wednesday, which the Wednesday before, actually, but that can be tight to get out there for a 7 p.m. kickoff. The only other thing to note in our opponents is that the 2025 version of the Ivy appears to be Annapolis. in that they have built a huge groundswell of momentum for their women's team. Their men's team, I guess, they've been in USL 2 for a bit. They have insane attendances. They've hit 11,000 at least once for a USL 2 match, which is kind of insane. And they have already sold 3,500 season tickets for their women's team. So again, they've sold more for their men's, and I'm just like, why even at this level when the teams are at the exact same level that more people care about the men's team than women's? I digress. But 3,500 is great. So that should be maybe the only other match where there's the crowd factor, playing in front of a crowd, playing in front of an atmosphere. That's something that teams had to get used to at City Stadium, and now the Ivy might get to experience it away at Annapolis.
Is the internet correct in saying that it's only like a 2-hour, 15-minute drive to Annapolis?
I would assume without traffic, but
yeah. With traffic, it's probably like 2 days.
Annapolis is incredibly charming. I went there for the first time this past summer, and it is so cute. It's where Navy, the name.
Oh yeah, like the Naval Academy.
Yes, the Naval Academy. And
gotcha.
It's really, really charming. Like, it wouldn't be out of place in like Martha's Vineyard, like really, really cute downtown and like marina and all that kind of thing. So yes, would also be a nice away day. I feel like there's annoying conflicts for so many of the Ivies away, but it is nice with a readjusted division that now it is even more local. Last season, two of the teams were in Pennsylvania, which was much too far that was a 5-hour trip. It was also tough on the teams to make those trips. The only other sort of dimension that we can bring up is not about what the current division is, but the difference from last year's division. I, of course, knew way too much about these pre-professional divisions, but last season, two of the teams in Ivy's division had just reached the national semifinal or final in their respective leagues the season before. So Eagle in the W League had made the national semifinal, and Lancaster had just in their previous league, which was the UWS, maybe it's one of those other pre-professional leagues, they had made the national final. So two of the best pre-professional women's teams in the country were in the Ivy's division. And with how W League works, only the top team in the division is guaranteed to advance. Depending on the strength of the conference in general, 1 or 2 second place teams are able to advance. So that was my honest assessment of the season, was that it would have taken a miracle for Ivy to make the playoffs last season. You just, as a first year program competing against two of the best setups in the country, is a very, very tall task for any squad. And now the pendulum has swung to the complete opposite direction, where the only team that is a known quantity is a team that we beat twice last season, won by 5 goals at home. So the door is now, it feels like it's open in a way it was not last season to actually challenge for the division. But again, it could be competitive. Every game could matter. Last season, I think the Ivy finished like 15 points off of the playoff spot, an insurmountable number. There was not it was not on the edge of a knife whether or not they were going to make the playoffs. That was very far out of reach. So this season, it's a possibility that every single point that they make matters, because we just don't know how competitive this division will be. And as of now, it's completely wide open. There's no favorite.
Let's go win it.
Yeah.
It's nice. I prefer that to knowing. It was impressive. We beat Eagle at home, but Eagle traveled with like 14 players or something. Like, it was.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, I remember that one. It
was an exciting win, but it was just not
under certain circumstances. Yeah, but they're gone. So
yep,
ours to win.
Yes, have fun in their division, Mid-Atlantic, whatever the heck. All right, so that brings us to, well, the one quick mention is to fill out our season ticket package, we have had the addition of the Brandy Chastain Cup, a new competition that has never been played before. We get a lot of unknowns this season, a lot of stuff that's never happened before with players and teams we've never seen before, with coaches we don't know anything about. New England Mutiny will be coming to Richmond. They are a very good team. They also made the national final last season in their division.
And they're a club with a lot of history. Like, they're kind of a big deal.
They're kind of a big deal.
Like, they almost beat China in a World Cup tune-up in 2004, according to their website. Which
New
is
England-
like,
almost.
whoa.
So close.
Well, they were leading 3-1 in the 60th minute, and they lost 4-3, which is kind of a bummer. But they also, on their website, don't know last time it was updated, hopefully recently, are the only minor league team in U.S. soccer history to beat a pro team when they beat the Boston Breakers in 2012.
Oh, and then Boston Breakers decided that was time done. And then
Yeah, they were like, you know what? I think
fold.
I'm done. I think we
Yeah.
can't.
I think we're
We
good.
lost to the New England Mutiny, so
All right, everybody.
probably time to
Breakers.
pack it up. Yeah.
They were a very, very bad team. Although I did once
Oh.
see them in 2013 and met Heather O'Reilly after the game, which was
Ooh, big deal.
really fun because there was like all of 40 people going to those games in Boston.
Rest
Oh.
in peace, Boston Breakers and Atlanta Beat, baby. Those are
Oh my God. The two teams that I saw before the current iteration of NWSL, the Atlanta Beat and the Boston Breakers. But the Boston Breakers are, the organization will not be coming back, but women's pro soccer is coming back to Boston. Luckily,
Thank God they changed the name.
Jay is about to say.
Yeah.
Boss Nation is no more.
Yeah, that was bad.
What's the new name?
It's something slightly better.
It's like a
It's
name.
like-
It's like a name now. It's like the Boston somethings. It's like they're not doing something weird with it.
Like an anagram.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It's not like the Coven, which I thought would have been really good. Like everybody was going witch with it, and I was like, "That's what you need to do." That would have been great. But
Boston Legacy FC is what
That's-
the internet would indicate as their name now.
The legacy,
boring, but better.
the legacy
Yeah,
of
it's
the
just like,
Breakers,
It
baby.
couldn't have gotten worse. So
Bring back. They wanted to bring back the Breakers. They came as close as they could.
Mm.
All right, so we will see. We will see. I'm gonna attempt to be at that game. My high school reunion starts the next day in Albany, New York. So I'm currently finagling how I will be in Richmond until 9 p.m. on Thursday and somehow in Albany by 1 p.m. on Friday. So we will. I am really trying to be in both places because I can't miss this Brandy Chastain Cup. Maybe Brandy Chastain will be there. That's
Either
can you
that
imagine? Can you imagine?
or she's the cup is like her with the thing and like the sports bra
It's
and
like her-
everything.
like a plastic-
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm
Oh.
throwing that out there, but we'll see.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. They're trying new stuff. USL is just trying new stuff left and right in the last couple seasons. We'll see what sticks. All right, so that brings us to the end of our agenda, leaving ourselves with our final thoughts. What we're kind of hoping to see. We'll keep it quick because we've already talked about honestly every single thing you could think of for a pre-professional women's team that will be playing a 6-week season.
Everything that the internet could tell us about what the Ivy was going to be this year, you know now.
You know now.
It's fine. We're like the Hobbit movies, but
Yes.
turning it to the books, but for professional women.
For pre-professional women's soccer.
That was an analogy and a half.
Hell yeah.
That was
Look
carrying
for it.
a lot of weight. This though was better than the Hobbit movies.
Whoa! Shots fired. There we go. That's gonna be. Oof.
What is happening? Final thoughts?
My final thought is that I want two. I want to win the division.
Yep.
Even if we don't get to see as many players play for the team, if that's what it takes. And two, I'm kind of annoyed about Annapolis because I really want to still be the highest attended team in our division. We might be settling for top 5 nationwide, which I'll take. I'll take that.
Mhm.
I know there's a couple other big names, Indy 11 and Minnesota Aurora. There's a couple names that are also drawing big attendances, but continuing to sell out almost every game. They actually outdrew the Kickers last season on average and outdrew many USL 1 clubs, like probably half. So I would like, at minimum, I would like to keep that going because the more eyes are on the Ivy, the more money being put into this team, the closer we get to professional soccer in Richmond.
True. Allan, you want to go?
Sure. You kind of hit on the thing that I want the most on my Christmas list is to get this team and this program in a position where, like, obviously we know the USL men's side is doing promotion relegation at some point. And obviously that the women's side literally just started. So it's kind of like a thing of, I don't know if that'll ever happen to that, whatever. But to put it in the position where I think the Ivy deserved to be in the conversation for a Super League team. I thought this when the Super League started. I was like, who else is drawing this kind of number? If that's the only reason you make a team, like, then I think we got everything checked off. I think just keep on putting us on the map, keep on like going, which I think is going to go hand in hand with scoring more goals, making us really exciting to watch. I think will be a big deal. Like just putting us on the social, putting us on like on the map for something. I think just having this team become more and more something where you see out in the open. Like you already see it a lot. And what I really love is seeing all the Ivy stuff, like people with an Ivy hat somewhere. You just be out randomly in the biggest small town in America, which is Richmond, VA, and you will just see people with like Ivy stuff. Like I want Ivy to kind of act like actual Ivy and just start kind of taking over the city a little bit. Like I want to see that presence inside the city grow a lot more, so that now when I go like, oh, it's the Ivy, they don't go like, what's that? I'm like, it's the team we all know and love. So that's my big hope.
Good one.
Yeah. I think short of us becoming professional, I think like my goal specifically for this season, but also for however long we are pre-professional, I want us to be the step before professional. Like I really want to see, we've talked about Kana a little bit and playing in Norway professionally now. I really want to see us put players into the USL Super League, into the NWSL, into professional leagues, across the globe. Like I want us to be a pre-professional league. I think we have some really good candidates on the roster for like taking that step. And so next year when we're having this like preseason discussion, I want to be talking about, a couple other players who are doing what Kana did and becoming a professional team. 44 of the players in the USL Super League right now are USL W alums. So there's room for it out there. And I really want the Ivy. It just helps us recruit. Like, that if you come to the Ivy, you play in this environment, like you're ready for the next step kind of a thing. Success breeds success. And I really want us to be that. And then also just for like Richmond as a women's soccer city, last year, having the Spirit come down and host a like cup game at City Stadium was really cool. I hope we get something like that again. Because like you guys have said, like Richmond is an awesome soccer city, is an even better, I think, women's soccer city. Like the more opportunities we get for us as a community to show that, the more opportunity I think will come around. And so I hope we get something cool like that again somewhere this season in our season ticket package.
I hope so too. Yeah, that would be great. Oh, we've got big dreams. If only we were the ones who controlled, we pulled the strings and we got to decide what happened. Yeah, I think all of those are such great points. I would hope that players with ambitions beyond the college game are factored into recruitment. That's sort of a different caliber. You just unfortunately see fewer women like thinking that is possible as their next step. So it would be great if that's conversations that are being had in this locker room that are happening between the coaches and the players that, hey, maybe you didn't think that you could take the next step professionally, but more and more opportunities are coming up. So the top players are considering playing out after their collegiate career because just fewer women think that's a path and think that's an option and maybe, make that a priority. So yeah, it would be really, really exciting if more players showed that ambition. And I say that in that for women, often showing ambition is not taken kindly. And like, I would love it for our players to be openly ambitious, that they see this as a stepping stone. They don't see this as like the end point of their career, but they see this as a tool for them to get to the next step because they believe that they are good enough and they want to play professionally. So it would be nice, maybe to start hearing that from more of our players. This is the call that it's okay if you feel like that, to current youth players, that you're not being presumptuous by saying that you want to play professionally someday, that you think you're good enough to play professionally someday. It would be great to start hearing that more from the players. Any final thoughts before we go? Because we've talked everyone's ear off. Everyone's going to have to use on 1.5 speed to get through it. But I think there's enough sickos in this city.
Well, listen, if you want to watch the Ivy for 90 minutes, listen to us for 90 minutes, and then you've earned that right.
It's a warm up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the attention span for it?
Right. All right. Well, everyone, make sure, outside of my co-host, make sure that you have your tickets to the home opener this Saturday at City Stadium. We're so excited to see the Ivy kickoff. And then again, it is a sprint, not a marathon. You don't hear that very often. This is a sprint. The games will be coming thick and fast. You will be sick to death of us by the time July rolls around. So just strap in, get ready. We have a short and exciting season ahead of us. Looking forward to chatting with you all next week, ideally after our first win of the season. So
let's do it.
Yes. And our last call, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, River City 93 across all platforms. Follow at the Vinegard on Instagram to sort of keep up with what the supporters group is going to be doing in the lead up to the game, tailgate info, all that good stuff for Saturday. And on that note, I'll borrow Elliot's outro. Be easy and be safe.